I never thought trust was something you had to announce. I thought it was something you earned slowly, demonstrated quietly, and returned when it mattered. I thought the people who raised you, who watched you grow, who saw you handle every responsibility they ever gave you, I thought those people would remember. I thought they would know. I was wrong. My name is Claire, and for most of my adult life, I have been the person my family calls when something needs to be done. Not the person they celebrate. Not the person they confide in first. But the person they call when the situation is serious, when the stakes are high, when someone needs to step in and fix what's broken without making a scene about it. I thought that meant something. I thought that meant they trusted me. It took me 34 years to realize that being dependable is not the same as being trusted. It took a single afternoon to understand that my family had spent decades using my competence as a convenience while keeping me at arm's length from anything that actually mattered to them. And it took 6 months of careful, quiet reflection before I understood what I needed to do about it. This is not a story about the dramatic blow-up or a satisfying confrontation. This is a story about what happens when you realize that the people who rely on you the most have never actually let you in. And it is a story about what it means to stop waiting for an invitation that will never come. I grew up in a family that valued practicality over emotion, results over intention, and discretion over openness. My parents, Robert and Linda, were both accountants. My older brother, Marcus, followed them into finance. My younger sister, Jenna, became a lawyer. I became a project manager at a mid-sized consulting firm, which meant I spent my days solving other people's problems, managing other people's expectations, and making sure things that needed to happen actually happened. I was good at it. I have always been good at it. When my father had his first health scare at 62, I was the one who coordinated his care. I was the one who spoke with his doctors, scheduled his follow-up appointments, made sure he understood his medication regimen, and checked in with him daily during his recovery. My mother thanked me. My siblings thanked me. My father recovered and life went on. When my mother needed help navigating a complicated insurance issue a year later, I was the one who spent hours on the phone with representatives, reading policy documents, and drafting appeal letters. She got the coverage she needed. She thanked me. Life went on. When Marcus and his wife, Stephanie, were buying their first house and needed someone to review the contract, coordinate the inspection, and help them navigate a tricky negotiation with the seller, I was the one who did it. They moved in. They thanked me. Life went on. When Jenna went through a difficult breakup and needed someone to help her move out of her ex's apartment on short notice, I was the one who rented the truck, packed her things, and found her a sublease she could afford. She recovered. She thanked me. Life went on. I did not keep score. I did not expect praise. I understood that this was simply how families worked. You helped each other. You showed up. You did what needed to be done. But I started to notice something over time. A pattern. A small, persistent imbalance that I could not quite name. When Marcus and Stephanie decided to start trying for a baby, I found out 3 months after they had already been seeing a fertility specialist. When Jenna got engaged to her now husband, David, I found out a week after the proposal, and only because my mother mentioned it in passing. When my father was diagnosed with early-stage prostate cancer, I found out 2 weeks after his biopsy results came back, and only because I had called to check in and he let it slip. These were not small things. These were major life events, significant decisions, moments of vulnerability and hope and fear. And I was not included in them. Not at the beginning. Not when it mattered. I was told eventually, always with a casual tone, as if the delay was incidental, as if it had simply not occurred to anyone that I might want to know sooner. I told myself it was not intentional. I told myself that people get busy, that they process things differently, that they share news in their own time. I told myself that I was being overly sensitive, that I should not take it personally. But it kept happening. And then, about 2 years ago, something shifted. My mother called me on a Tuesday afternoon in late September. I was at work in the middle of a budget review meeting, but I stepped out to take the call because she rarely called during the day unless something was wrong. She sounded calm, almost cheerful, which immediately put me on edge. "Claire, honey, I wanted to let you know that your father and I have made a decision about the house." I waited. My parents had been talking for years about downsizing, about selling the 4-bedroom colonial where we had all grown up and moving into something smaller, easier to maintain. It made sense. They were both in their late 60s. The house was too much for them to manage. But they had never been able to agree on timing, on where they would go, on what they would keep and what they would let go of. We've decided to sell, my mother continued. We found a lovely condo development about 20 minutes north, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, everything on one level. We close in 6 weeks. I felt something tighten in my chest. 6 weeks. They had been looking. They had been planning. They had made an offer, gone through inspections, secured financing. And they were telling me now. 6 weeks before closing. That's great, Mom, I said carefully. When did you start looking? Oh, we've been looking since the spring, she said lightly. We didn't want to say anything until we were sure. You know how it is. We didn't want to get everyone worked up if it didn't happen. Everyone. Meaning me. Meaning they had not wanted to involve me in the process because they did not want my input, my questions, my help. They wanted to make the decision on their own and present it to me as a fait accompli. Does Marcus know? I asked. Of course, we told him and Stephanie last month. They've been helping us sort through things, decide what to keep and what to donate. Jenna knows too. She's been researching moving companies for us. I stood in the hallway outside the conference room, phone pressed to my ear, and felt something inside me go very still. They had told Marcus and Jenna. They had involved Marcus and Jenna. They had asked Marcus and Jenna for help. But they had not told me. They had waited until the decision was final, until the logistics were nearly complete, and then they had informed me. Not because they did not need help. Not because they thought I was too busy. But because they had not thought to include me. That's wonderful, Mom, I said quietly. Let me know if there's anything I can do. We will, honey. We just wanted to keep you in the loop. I ended the call and stood there for a long moment, staring at the blank corporate art on the wall, trying to understand what I was feeling. It was not anger. It was not even hurt exactly. It was something deeper, colder. A kind of recognition. I had been kept in the loop. That was the phrase she had used. Not included. Not consulted. Not trusted. Kept in the loop. Informed. Updated. As if I were a distant relative, a polite acquaintance, someone who deserved basic courtesy, but not genuine inclusion. I went back into the meeting. I finished the budget review. I went home. I made dinner. I did not cry. I did not call anyone. I sat on my couch with a glass of wine and let myself think about all the times I had been told things late, all the times I had found out by accident, all the times I had been thanked for my help but never asked for my opinion. And I started to see the shape of something I had been trying not to see for a very long time. My family did not trust me. Not really. They relied on me. They appreciated me. They valued my competence and my willingness to help. But they did not trust me with the things that mattered most to them. They did not trust me with their fears, their plans, their vulnerabilities. They did not trust me the way they trusted each other. I did not know why. I could not point to a single moment, a single mistake, a single betrayal that would explain it. I had never broken a confidence. I had never judged them. I had never failed to show up when they needed me. But somewhere along the way, they had decided that I was different, that I was outside the inner circle, that I was the person you called when you needed something done, but not the person you called when you needed someone to talk to. And they had never told me. I spent the next few weeks moving through my life in a kind of fog. I went to work. I met deadlines. I returned emails. But every interaction with my family felt different now. Every conversation felt like I was listening for subtext, for what was not being said, for the gaps where I should have been included but was not. My mother called to ask if I could help coordinate the moving truck. I said yes. My father called to ask if I could help them set up their internet and cable at the new place. I said yes. Jenna texted to ask if I could help her pick out a housewarming gift for them. I said yes. I helped. I showed up. I did what needed to be done. But I stopped waiting for anything else. I stopped waiting for them to realize. I stopped waiting for the conversation where they would ask me why I seemed distant, where I could explain how I felt, where we could work through it together. Because I knew, with a certainty that felt almost physical, that conversation would never happen. Because they did not see anything wrong. Because to them this was normal. This was how it had always been. I was the capable one. the one who handled things, the one who did not need to be coddled or consulted or included. I was fine. I was always fine. And that was the problem. The move happened in early November. I showed up on moving day with coffee and sandwiches for everyone. Marcus and Stephanie were there with their 2-year-old daughter, Emma. Jenna and David were there, coordinating with the movers, directing traffic. My parents moved through the house with a kind of nostalgic efficiency, pointing out what went where, reminiscing about old memories. I carried boxes. I assembled furniture. I made sure everyone stayed hydrated and fed. I was helpful. I was pleasant. I smiled at the right moments and laughed at the right jokes. No one seemed to notice that I barely spoke unless spoken to, that I stayed on a periphery, that I left as soon as the last box was unpacked. My mother hugged me at the door. "Thank you, sweetheart. I don't know what we would have done without you." I hugged her back. Anytime, Mom. And I meant it. Because I would help them. I would always help them. But I would not keep pretending that helping was the same as being trusted. I would not keep pretending that being needed was the same as being valued. I went home that night and sat in my quiet apartment, and I made a decision. I would not confront them. I would not ask them why. I would not try to explain what I had realized or demand that they change. Because I knew, with a clarity that felt almost liberating, that it would not matter. They would apologize. They would promise to do better. They would insist that they had never meant to exclude me, that it was all a misunderstanding. And then, over time, everything would go back to the way it was. Because they did not see the problem. Because to them there was no problem. So I would not try to fix it. I would not try to force them to see me differently. I would simply stop offering what they had never wanted in the first place. I would stop waiting to be trusted. I would stop offering pieces of myself that they did not know how to hold. I would help when asked. I would show up when needed. But I would stop giving them access to the parts of me that mattered. I would stop telling them things that were important to me until after those things were resolved. I would stop asking for their advice or their input or their presence in my life in any way that required vulnerability. I would treat them the way they had always treated me, politely, practically, at a distance, and I would see if anyone noticed. The shift was gradual. I did not announce it. I did not make a scene. I simply started living my life with a little more privacy, a little more discretion, a little more space between what I shared and what I kept to myself. When my company promoted me to senior project manager in December, I did not call my parents to tell them. I did not text my siblings. I waited until Christmas dinner, and when my mother asked how work was going, I mentioned it casually, the way you might mention a minor schedule change. "Oh, I got promoted a few weeks ago. It's been good. Busier, but good." My mother blinked. "A promotion? Claire, that's wonderful. Why didn't you say anything?" I shrugged lightly. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. You know how it is. She frowned slightly, but she did not press. Marcus congratulated me. Jenna asked if it came with a raise. My father nodded approvingly. The conversation moved on. No one asked why I had waited. No one asked how I felt about it. No one seemed to register that this was unusual, that I had always told them things like this right away, that I had always wanted to share good news with them. Or maybe they did register it and they just did not care. In January, I started seeing someone. His name was Ben. He was a software engineer, thoughtful and funny and patient. We met through a friend, went on a few dates, and by February we were spending most of our weekends together. It was early, and I did not know if it would last, but it felt good. It felt like something that mattered. I did not tell my family. When my mother asked if I was seeing anyone, I said I was keeping my options open. When Jen asked if I wanted to be set up with one of David's coworkers, I said I was too busy with work. When Marcus made a joke about me being married to my job, I laughed and changed the subject. I did not lie. I just did not offer the truth. Ben and I had been together for 3 months when he asked me why I never talked about my family. We were at his apartment, cooking dinner together, and the question caught me off guard. "I talk about them," I said carefully. "You mention them," he corrected gently. "You tell me what they're doing, what they need help with, but you don't really talk about them. I don't know how you feel about them. I don't know if we're close." I set down the knife I had been using to chop vegetables and looked at him. He was watching me with the kind of steady, open attention that I was not used to, the kind that made me feel seen. I don't know if we are, I said finally. Close, I mean. I thought we were, but I don't think they think we are. He did not ask me to explain. He just nodded, and we kept cooking, and I felt something in my chest loosen just a little. By spring, my mother had called me twice to ask if I could help them with things at the new condo. A leaky faucet. A confusing property tax bill. Both times, I said I was busy with work but that I could send them the name of a good plumber and a number for the tax assessor's office. Both times, my mother sounded surprised. Are you sure you can't just come take a look? She asked the second time. It would only take an hour. I really can't, Mom, I said. That the plumber I recommended is excellent. He'll take care of it. There was a pause. All right, honey, if you're sure, I'm sure. She did not ask if anything was wrong. She did not ask if I was upset. She just accepted my answer and moved on. I started to wonder if I was being petty, if I was punishing them for something they did not even realize they had done, if I was overreacting. But then, in late April, something happened that made me realize I was not. Marcus called me on a Saturday afternoon. I was at a farmer's market with Ben, and I almost did not answer, but I saw his name on the screen and thought it might be important. Hey, Claire, he said, and his voice was tight, strained in a way I had never heard before. Do you have a minute? Of course, I said, stepping away from the produce stand, gesturing to Ben that I would be right back. What's going on? It's Stephanie, he said, and I heard him take a shaky breath. She's pregnant again. We just found out, but it's high risk. She's got placenta previa. The doctor says she needs to be on bed rest for most of the pregnancy, and we don't know how we're going to manage with Emma and my job, and... His voice cracked. I don't know what to do. I stood there in the middle of the market, phone pressed to my ear, and felt a familiar weight settle onto my shoulders. The weight of someone else's crisis. The weight of being the person who would be expected to help figure it out. I'm so sorry, Marcus, I said quietly. That's really scary. How is Stephanie doing? She's terrified. We both are. We wanted this so badly, but we didn't expect... He stopped. I'm calling because I wanted to let you know. Mom and Dad already know. Jenna knows. We told them a few days ago. We've been trying to figure out a plan. A few days ago. They had known for a few days. They had been making plans for a few days. And he was telling me now. What kind of plan? I asked. Mom's going to come stay with us a few days a week to help with Emma. Jenna's going to adjust her schedule so she can cover some afternoons. We're looking into hiring someone part-time for the rest, but it's going to be tight. Financially, logistically, everything. I waited. I waited for him to ask me for help. I waited for him to tell me what he needed. But he did not. Anyway, he said, I just wanted to keep you in the loop. I know you're busy with work and everything, but I wanted you to know. Keep me in the loop. The same phrase my mother had used. The same casual, dismissive tone. The same assumption that I did not need to be involved, that I did not need to be part of the planning, that I was just someone who deserved to be informed. I appreciate you telling me, I said, and my voice came out calmer than I expected. Let me know if there's anything I can do. Yeah, of course, thanks, Claire. He hung up. I stood there for a long moment, staring at my phone, feeling something cold and hard settle into place. They had not asked me for help. They had not included me in the planning. They had not thought to involve me, even though they were scrambling, even though they were overwhelmed, even though I had spent years proving that I was the person who showed up when things got hard. Because they did not trust me with this. They did not trust me to be part of Stephanie's care, to be part of their family's crisis, to be part of the solution. They trusted my mother. They trusted Jenna. But not me. Then found me a few minutes later, carrying a bag of apples, and he took one look at my face and set the bag down. What happened? He asked. I told him. All of it. The call. The timing. The pattern. The years of being kept at a distance while being relied on for help. The years of being thanked but never included. The years of being told things late, being informed but never consulted, being treated like a resource instead of a person they trusted. He listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he said something I had not expected. You don't owe them anything, Claire. I stared at him. I mean it, he said. You've spent your whole life showing up for them. You've been a person they can count on, but they've never done that for you. They've never shown up for you the way you show up for them, and you don't owe them anything just because they're family. I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell him that he did not understand, that family was complicated, that you did not just walk away because things were not perfect. But I could not, because he was right. I did not owe them. I had been giving them things they had never asked for, hoping that eventually they would notice, that eventually they would reciprocate. But they had not. They had taken what I offered and left everything else untouched. And I had let them. I don't want to cut them off, I said finally. I just want them to see me. I want them to trust me the way I've trusted them, I know, Ben said gently. But you can't make them do that. You can only decide what you're willing to give. And that was when I understood what I needed to do. I needed to stop giving them access they had not earned. I needed to stop treating them like they were close to me when they had spent years keeping me at a distance. I needed to stop pretending that this was a relationship built on trust when it was really a relationship built on convenience. I needed to let them see what it felt like to be kept in a loop. Over the next few months, I continued pulling back. Not dramatically, not visibly, just quietly, steadily, creating space where there had been none before. When my mother called to ask if I could help her organize a family barbecue for my father's 70th birthday in June, I told her I had plans. I did not cancel those plans. I did not rearrange my schedule. I just said no. She sounded surprised. Are you sure you can't move things around? It would mean a lot to your father, I'm sure, Mom, but I hope it's a wonderful party. When Jenna called to ask if I could help her and David look at houses, they were thinking of buying something bigger now that they were talking about starting a family. I told her I did not have time, but that I could send her the name of a good realtor. She sounded confused. You don't have time for one afternoon? Not right now, I said. Work is really intense. It was not a lie. Work was intense. But I had made time before, even when work was intense. I had always made time. When Marcus sent me a group text in late May updating the family on Stephanie's pregnancy, she was doing well, the baby was healthy, they were cautiously optimistic, I responded with a supportive message and a heart emoji. But I did not call him. I did not offer to help. I did not ask what I could do. I waited to be asked. And no one asked. Then I got more serious. By summer, we were talking about moving in together. It felt significant, meaningful, like something I would have told my family about immediately a year ago. But I did not tell them. I waited. In July, I went with Ben to meet his parents. They lived in Portland, and we spent a long weekend with them, and it was easy and warm and uncomplicated. His mother asked me questions about my work, my life, my interests. His father told me stories about Ben as a kid and asked me about my own childhood. They treated me like someone they wanted to know, not someone they were obligated to be polite to. And I realized how long it had been since I'd felt that with my own family. When we got back, my mother called to ask how the trip was. I told her it was nice. She asked if I had met Ben's parents. I said I had. That's wonderful, honey. Are things serious with him getting there? I said. Well, we'd love to meet him sometime, maybe at the next family dinner. I paused. It would have been easy to say yes. To bring Ben into the fold, to let him meet everyone, to fold this part of my life into theirs. But I did not want to. Not yet. Maybe not ever. We'll see, I said. He's pretty busy with work, of course, my mother said, and I could hear the slight note of confusion in her voice. Just let us know. I did not let them know. In August, Ben and I found an apartment together. It was a one-bedroom in a neighborhood I loved, with high ceilings and hardwood floors and a tiny balcony where we could sit in the evenings. We signed a lease on a Tuesday and moved in over the following weekend. I did not tell my family until after we had moved in. And I did not tell them in person. I did not call. I sent a text to the family group chat on Sunday night after everything was unpacked, after we had already spent our first night there. Hey, everyone, just wanted to let you know Ben and I moved in together this weekend. New place is great. Hope you're all doing well. The responses came quickly. My mother, Claire, that's such big news, so why didn't you say anything? Jenna, wait, you're living with someone? Since when? Marcus, congrats sis, that's awesome. My father, good for you, Claire. I stared at the messages for a long time. My mother's confusion. Jenna's surprise. Marcus's casual congratulations. My father's brief approval. None of them asked why I had not told them. None of them seemed to realize that this was the exact way they had treated me for years. None of them saw the parallel. Or maybe they did and they just did not care. I responded to each message briefly, thanking them, deflecting their questions. And then I put my phone down and went to sit on the balcony with Ben, and I felt something I had not felt in a very long time. Peace. The next few months were quiet. My family continued reaching out, continued inviting me to things, continued asking for help with small tasks. And I continued responding the way they had always responded to me. Politely, practically, at a distance. I went to my father's birthday party in September, but I arrived late and left early. I helped my mother troubleshoot a problem with her laptop over the phone, but I did not offer to come over and do it in person. I congratulated Jenna and David when they put an offer on a house, but I did not offer to help them with the inspection or the closing. I was present. I was pleasant. I was helpful when asked. I was not available the way I used to be. And slowly, incrementally, I started to notice that my family was not adjusting. They were not stepping up to fill the space I had left. They were not asking me why I had pulled back or if something was wrong. They were just accepting it, as if this was fine, as if this was how things had always been. In late October, about a year after my mother had called to tell me about the house, I got a call from Marcus. It was a Friday evening, and Ben and I were making dinner. I saw his name on the screen and felt the familiar tightness in my chest, but I answered. Hey, Marcus, what's up? Hey, Claire, do you have a minute? Sure. There was a pause, and I heard him take a breath. Stephanie had the baby yesterday, a boy, Henry. He's healthy. She's okay. It was scary for a while, but everyone's okay. I set down the spoon I had been holding and gripped the edge of the counter. Marcus, that's wonderful. I'm so glad they're both okay. Thanks, he said, and his voice was thick with exhaustion and relief. We're still at the hospital, but we'll be home in a couple days. I just wanted to let you know. I appreciate you calling, I said quietly. Yeah, of course. There was another pause, and I waited to see if he would say anything else. If he would apologize for not telling me sooner, for not including me in the updates during Stephanie's pregnancy, for not asking me to be part of any of it. But he did not. Anyway, he said I should get back. Stephanie is resting, but I don't want to be gone too long. Of course, give her my love, and congratulations, really. Thanks, Claire. He hung up. I stood there in the kitchen, phone in my hand, and I felt something break open inside me. Not anger, not hurt, just a deep aching sadness. Because I had wanted to be part of this. I had wanted to be the person they called when they were scared, when they needed help, when they needed someone to just be there. I had wanted to be trusted with the hard parts, not just the logistics. I had wanted to be more than a resource. I had wanted to be family. But they had never seen me that way. And they never would. Ben came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. You okay? I leaned back against him and closed my eyes. Yeah, I think so. Do you want to talk about it? Not right now. He kissed the top of my head. Okay. We finished making dinner. We ate on the couch, watching a movie neither of us paid much attention to. And later that night, after Ben had fallen asleep, I lay awake in the dark and let myself grieve. Not for the family I had, but for the family I had thought I had. For the version of my relationships that I had built in my head, where my competence was a sign of trust, where my reliability meant closeness, where my presence mattered beyond what I could do for them. That family had never existed, and it never would. In early November, my mother called and asked if I could come over to help her set up their new TV. I told her I was busy. She asked if I could come the following weekend. I told her I had plans. She sounded frustrated. Claire, it's been months since we've really seen you. You've been so distant lately. Is everything okay? I paused. This was it. This was the moment where I could tell her, where I could explain what I had realized, how I had felt, why I had pulled back, where I could ask her if she understood, if she even saw what had been happening. But I knew what would happen if I did. She would apologize. She would insist that they had never meant to exclude me, that they loved me, that they valued me. And maybe she would even mean it, but it would not change anything, because she did not see the problem. Because to her, I was fine. I was always fine. Everything's fine, Mom, I said. I've just been really busy with work and with Ben. Well, we'd still love to meet him, she said, a note of her creeping into her voice. It feels like you're shutting us out, honey. I almost laughed. Almost. I'm not shutting you out, Mom. I'm just living my life. It doesn't feel that way. I'm sorry you feel that way, I said, and I meant it. But I really do have to go. I'll talk to you soon. I hung up before she could respond. Over the next few weeks, the calls and texts from my family increased. My mother called twice more, asking if I was upset, if something was wrong, if she had done something to offend me. Jenna texted to ask if I was mad at her. Marcus sent a message asking if I was okay, saying that everyone was worried. I responded to each of them the same way. I was fine. I was not upset. I was just busy. I was just focused on my own life right now. And it was true. I was not upset. I was not angry. I was just done pretending that our relationship was something it was not. In December, my family had their annual holiday gathering at my parents' condo. I was invited, of course, and I went, because I was not trying to punish them. I was not trying to make a point. I was just trying to exist in the relationship as it actually was, rather than as I had wanted it to be. I arrived on time. I brought a bottle of wine and a plate of cookies. I hugged everyone. I admired baby Henry. I listened to Jenna talk about the renovations she and David were planning for their new house. I asked Marcus how work was going. I complimented my mother's cooking. I was pleasant. I was polite. I was present. But I was not open. I did not share anything about my own life beyond surface level updates. I did not ask for advice. I did not linger in conversations. I did not seek out connection. And no one seemed to notice. Or maybe they did, and they just did not know what to do about it. As the evening wound down, my mother pulled me aside in the kitchen while I was helping clean up. Claire, can we talk for a minute? I dried my hands on a dish towel and turned to face her. Of course. She looked at me with an expression I could not quite read. Concern, maybe. Or confusion. You've been so distant lately. I feel like I barely know what's going on in your life anymore, and I know you said you're just busy, but it feels like more than that. It feels like you're pulling away. I looked at her for a long moment. She was my mother. She had raised me. She had taught me how to be responsible, how to be dependable, how to show up. But she had never taught me how to trust that other people would show up for me. She had never taught me that being needed was not the same as being valued. I'm not pulling away, Mom, I said quietly. I'm just not reaching out the way I used to. There's a difference I don't understand. I know, I said. And I realized in that moment that she genuinely did not. That she had never seen the imbalance. That she had never understood that asking me for help was not the same as including me. That informing me of decisions was not the same as trusting me with the decision-making process. Claire, if I've done something to hurt you, haven't, I said, and I meant it. You've never done anything intentionally, none of you have, but that's kind of the problem. You've never thought about how it feels to always be the last to know, to always be told things after they had decided, to always be thanked for helping but never asked what I think or how I feel. She frowned. But you're always so capable. You always seem like you have everything under control. We didn't think you needed. I didn't need help. Mom, I needed trust. I needed to be part of things, not just informed about them. I needed to be someone you confided in, not just someone you called when you needed something fixed. She stared at me, and I saw something shift in her expression. Not understanding exactly, but recognition. A faint, uncomfortable awareness that maybe, possibly, I was telling her something true. I didn't realize, she said softly. I know. Can we fix this? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to tell her that we could start over it, that we could build something different, that it was not too late. But I did not know if that was true. Because fixing it would require them to see me differently. And I did not know if they could. I don't know, Mom, I said honestly. But I'm not angry. I'm just tired of waiting for something that might never come. She looked like she wanted to say more, but I picked up the dish towel and turned back to the sink, and after a moment, she left the kitchen. I finished cleaning up. I said my goodbyes. I hugged everyone. I drove home to the apartment I shared with Ben, and I felt something I had not felt in a very long time. Not peace exactly, but clarity. I'd spent most of my life trying to earn something that was supposed to be given freely. I had tried to prove that I was trustworthy by being endlessly dependable. I had tried to show that I deserved to be included by always showing up. But trust does not work that way. Trust is not something you earn by doing. Trust is something you offer and hope that the other person knows how to hold it. My family had never known how to hold mine, and I had spent years trying to teach them by example, hoping that eventually they would learn. But they had not, and maybe they never would. In January, Ben and I got engaged. He proposed on a quiet Sunday morning in our apartment. No fanfare, no grand gesture. Just the two of us and a simple question and an answer I did not have to think about. I called my mother that afternoon to tell her. She cried. She said she was so happy for me. She asked when we were thinking about the wedding. I told her we had not decided yet. Well, let us know how we can help, she said. I will, Mom. But I did not ask for help. When Ben and I started planning, we did it ourselves. We booked a venue. We hired a photographer. We sent out invitations. And I did not consult my family about any of it. I informed them. I kept them in the loop, because that was what they had taught me to do. My mother called a few weeks before the wedding, sounding hurt. Claire, I feel like we've barely been part of this. You haven't asked for our input on anything. You haven't included us in the planning. I sat on the balcony, phone in hand, watching the sunset over the city. You're invited. Mom, you're part of the wedding, but the planning is something Ben and I wanted to do together. But we're your family. Don't you want our help? I didn't think you'd have time, I said quietly. You've all been so busy. There was a long silence. Claire, she said finally, her voice shaking slightly. I'm sorry. I don't know when it happened, but somewhere along the way, I think we stopped treating you like you mattered, and I didn't even realize it until now. I closed my eyes. I know, Mom. Can I fix it? I don't know, I said honestly. But I'd like to try. And I meant it. Because I did not want to lose my family. I just did not want to keep pretending that our relationship was something it was not. I wanted something real. Something built on actual trust, not just convenience. I did not know if we could get there, but I was willing to see. The wedding was small, intimate. Ben's family, my family, and a handful of close friends. It was beautiful and simple and exactly what we wanted. During the reception, my mother gave a short speech. She talked about watching me grow up, about how proud she was of the person I had become. And then she said something I had not expected. Claire has always been the person we count on, the person who shows up, the person who gets things done. But I realize now that we've taken that for granted. We've relied on her without really seeing her, without really trusting her with the things that mattered most. And I'm sorry for that. She looked at me, her eyes wet. You deserve better than that, and I hope we can do better going forward. I did not cry, but I nodded. And I felt something shift. Not a resolution. Not a perfect ending, but a beginning. A small, fragile possibility. After the reception, after the last guests had left, Ben and I sat outside the venue, still in our wedding clothes, watching the stars. How do you feel? He asked. Tight, I said. Hopeful, uncertain, that sounds about right. I leaned my head on his shoulder. I don't know if things will actually change with my family, but I think I'm okay with that now. I think I finally accepted that I can't make them trust me. I can only decide how much of myself I'm willing to share, and how much is that. I don't know yet, I said. But I'll figure it out. He kissed the top of my head. I trust you. And I believed him. I do not know how the story ends. I do not know if my family will ever really see me the way I want to be seen. I do not know if they will ever understand what it felt like to always be kept at a distance, to always be informed but never included, to always be thanked but never trusted. But I know that I'm done waiting for them to figure it out. I'm done trying to earn something that should have been given freely. I'm done being the person who shows up for everyone else while no one shows up for me. I will still help when I can. I will still be there when they need me. But I will not give them pieces of myself that they do not know how to hold. I will not share my fears, my hopes, my vulnerabilities with people who have proven again and again that they do not know what to do with them. Because trust is not something you demand. It is something you offer. And it is something you protect. And I have finally learned to protect mine. If you have ever felt like the person everyone relies on but no one really knows, if you have ever given everything and received only politeness in return, if you have ever realized that being needed is not the same as being valued, I hope you know that you are not alone. And I hope you know that it is okay to stop waiting. It is okay to pull back. It is okay to keep some parts of yourself private, safe, untouched by the people who never learned how to hold them. You do not owe anyone access to your heart just because they are family. You do not owe anyone trust just because they need you. You are allowed to protect yourself, even from the people you love. And maybe, if you are lucky, they will notice. They will realize what they have been missing. They will learn how to trust you the way you have always trusted them. But even if they do not, you will be okay, because you will have learned to trust yourself. Thanks for listening.